Hi, I'm Susan Gardner from Municipal World. I'm at the 2018 Municipal Innovators Conference in Calgary, Alberta, and joining me in our media center is a group of folks who are here attending from Ontario. They're all part of the Ontario Municipal Administrators Association, and thought it would be a great opportunity to have these folks in to share some of their reflections on the conference here in Calgary. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Maybe we could just start, if we just go around and you can introduce yourselves and what you do and the municipalities you're from. That would be great.
Absolutely.
Do you want to start us off?
Sure. So I'm Michael Duben, and I'm the Chief Administrative Officer for the District Municipality of Muskoka, and I'm also the incoming President of the OMAA. So this time next year, at this very same conference, I'll be the President, and the good news is it's being held in Muskoka that year, so we're really excited about that.
Awesome.
Great. My name's Laurie Bowers from the Township of Scugog, which is in Durham region. I'm here. I have to thank the OMAA for my opportunity to be here. I'm the Manager of Communications and Strategic Initiatives for the Township.
Okay.
I'm Sandra Shehadeh. I'm a management consultant in the city of Mississauga, and I also would like to thank the OMAA for this opportunity to come to Calgary.
Very good. I'm John Regan. I'm the Chief Administrative Officer and Director of Economic Development for the Township of Black River-Matheson. And thank you very much to OMAA and Municipal World for doing this interview for us.
Okay. Well, thanks very much, guys. So one of the things that I was hoping maybe we could talk about, there's been, of course, a lot of discussion at the conference around what innovation is and what it isn't. And does anybody want to just kind of comment on that? What is innovation?
Sure. I can. I'll give it a crack anyways. I think, first of all, what we're doing at some point was innovation. But I think innovation is doing something different than what we're doing today. I don't know what that looks like necessarily just yet, because I've learned so much in this past day and a half or so as to the possibilities of innovation and different techniques to look for it and flush it out.
Okay.
What I learned from a lot of the sessions I attended in the conference is that innovation really is an iterative and dynamic process. We learn by trying and maybe failing, and we learn by attending these types of things and learning from others and what they've done, and maybe even taking it and adapting it to our organization, because we all do the same thing, maybe at different sizes and levels, but in the end we know what services we're providing, but it's the how that is the innovative part.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. We're kind of going in order, so I guess I'll
okay.
say something. I think being open to it's okay to fail, that concept, and it's okay to take a risk. I met with some finance people. It's always interesting to get their impression of these types of concepts. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Risk is a big part of it, and that it is, selling that it's okay to take those calculated risks, and it's okay to give your staff the opportunity to have a space where they can feel that they can be innovative, and if they do fail, that it's not necessarily complete failure. You've learned something from it.
I guess I'll take the approach of saying what it's not. I think sometimes people think innovation is somehow related solely to technology, something electronic, something that is a new app or a new application, and I think it can be that, but it's not just that. I also don't think that it necessarily means that we've done something wrong before. I think it's a forward-thinking thing. It's not an answer to a problem. It's a mindset. It's a culture. And it's interesting, too, because at conferences like this, municipalities right across the country are different sizes. And so when you're different sizes, you also have different access to resources, and your sort of the maturity of your municipality may be at very different places. And so what may be a new idea for a municipality, but one that's been embraced by other municipalities, doesn't mean that that municipality isn't being innovative. it's for them, it's something that's new. It's continuous improvement. We're not all going to continuously improve at the same pace. It's just not realistic, given that we have different pressures, we have different sizes, we have different cultures. So I agree. I think it's dynamic, and it's a mindset. It's how you think about the future and what you're doing.
I think one of the things that I heard this week was that it's not best practices, but somebody framed it as focusing on next practices. So, where are we now? Where to from here? But for some, next practices might be best practices. It all depends where you're at, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, if we think about takeaways this week, because we're just about wrapping up here at the conference, what are each of you going to be taking back? What kind of messages are you going to be taking back to your communities?
I'll start. For me, I think, I really think that we are somewhat innovative at the district municipality of Muskoka. I think there's a lot of things that we are doing that I would classify as innovative. I think we're getting that mindset more and more every day. But I think the discussion we had earlier in the conference about the willingness to make mistakes, that's difficult in an environment where effectiveness and efficiency are the words that we always talk about. And well, how can you be effective and efficient if you've made mistakes? I think that's the sort of the traditional thinking. But absolutely, we're going to have to take risk, and there's a certain amount of risk that I think are acceptable if at the end of the day you're trying to be at a better place. And all the discussion about sort of failing and failing quickly and failing hard, those are good discussions to have. And I would suggest to you 20 years ago, municipalities were not talking like that. It was always about striving for perfection, and sometimes to a certain extent staying under the radar. If you make mistakes, you're not staying under the radar. So that's a real change in the mindset, and I think it's a healthy one.
Yeah, and making sure that people feel safe people inside the organization feel safe, that it's okay to fail, and they're not going to be crucified for it, right?
It's great to hear from a CAO and have your perspective on that as I start to think about how I'm going to bring it back to my CAO and our senior staff at the Township of Scugog. We are small, and resources and budgets, we're tight. We have to work very efficiently and effectively, and we're result-driven, and that accountability piece, to our taxpayers. So that's the traditional elements that I'll have to face. But it's refreshing to hear and gives me a little bit of positive reinforcement that I'll be able to bring back this concept, if you will. We have an amazing team of senior professionals that have come from larger organizations and have brought their skill set to the small community. It's going to be very nice for them, I think, to try and get out of the box a little bit and encourage the staff. That continuous improvement piece is something that we are going to start to infuse. We're just not talking in that realm yet. I hope to.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I got many small nuggets from all the different sessions that I attended, but I think I have a little bit for the fire department with the stigma with the mental health issues. I got a little bit about how to tell your story and how to be ambassadors of your city and how to tell the story about how we do our work. So at the City of Mississauga, we do have the LEAN program, which I think we're doing a great job in bringing innovation and improvements to the different departments, and I think we can focus a little bit more on that and how to tell our story. So
again, I have so many pieces that I'll be taking back to Black River-Matheson, but I think from a more 50,000-foot view is going back with breaking some rules. We're a very small municipality, and what really governs us is our procedural bylaws and our bylaws and our policies, and we all know they're that thick. And because we're so small, we tend to really stick to the policy because it's hard for us to go outside the box. So I think what I'll be going back with is what I'm taking out of here, it's okay to break the rules and let innovation just bubble to the top, and don't let anybody pop those bubbles as you're thinking them through. So there's some very, very good sessions here, absolutely.
You mentioned about thinking them through, and I think Jeff Fielding yesterday, he shared a quote from, I can't remember who it was.
Yogi Berra, maybe?
I think maybe Yogi Berra, about I can't think while I'm hitting.
That's right.
And about, kind of taking that time to sharpen the saw and to really think through, because if you don't take deliberate time to do that, and you're just caught up in the task all the time, you don't have that opportunity to, to really contemplate what might bubble up, right?
And it doesn't have to be a massive, huge change right away. I think I'll go back the session with the mentors through the OMAA. Just simply inviting those that you think could be like-minded in this area to have a coffee, a conversation, build that to a lunch and learn, kind of take it step by step and not get overwhelmed by the destination, and just start the conversation.
And we do that in Mississauga. We have the community of practice. We started off with just an innovation community of practice. So actually one of the, Karen Stock-McDonald was hosting the panel on that session, and it started off with the innovation community of practice, and now I think we have about maybe 7 of them across the city. The different departments have taken them and said, you know what, let's invite like-minded people to talk and to discuss what we could do and improve in that specific area. So, yeah, that is great.
And that's where I think, CAOs and city managers can really play a role, because there's so much pressure on everybody in the municipal environment to, operations comes first and foremost. And things like strategic planning, things like innovation, often I think the skills are there to do it. It's just that they're not as relevant they're not seen as relevant as the day-to-day stuff. There's so much pressure to do the day-to-day stuff. And I think at the top, if you can set the tone and make it part of what needs to be done, not something that just gets done off the side of your desk, or something that gets done when you get a meeting canceled or something like that. That's the way that the culture can be changed. Is make it as relevant as you do other things. Health and safety is very relevant. We always find time for that because we have to. Well, I would argue that long-term strategic planning and innovation and continuous improvement is the same thing.
We need to add it to their job descriptions.
Exactly.
All our staff job descriptions. So where it says all other duties as assigned, just before that, shall innovate.
That's right.
And as CAOs, we need to provide them the resources and the time to do that.
I agree.
Yeah.
So, you folks, do you have any perspectives on what you feel the role of the CAO
Definitely,
should be in innovation?
100% like sponsorship and just being champions of the ideas, so that it doesn't end up being just a flavor of the month or the year. It's something that you do what you want, like what you want staff to do, you do it yourself. So again, I hate to always bring up lean, but we're doing that with the lean program, because we want to make sure that continuous improvement becomes a culture, and we're trying to kind of, as the lean program, to try to work ourselves out of a job. We want lean to be a culture, so that won't happen unless it's from the top down as well. And so we expect our CAO, our commissioners, to all come up with their own lean improvements.
Lead by example, right?
Lead by example. And so I believe that that's one of the most important things, is that championship and sponsorship.
Yes, thank you. My goodness, I don't know if I can say it any better than that.
Yeah.
To say ditto, but ditto works. I'll just say that knowing my CAO, I think he's an innovative thinker, but he's a very busy man, and you do get down and trodden in that busyness, and so the support factor and allowing staff the opportunity, as I tend to grow it, maybe outside of a lunch and learn, to allowing space in the workday as well to come together, and just offering that support and leadership, and giving us the okay to do it.
I agree, and I think you have to create, as CAOs, I think we're somewhat responsible for the culture of the organization, and I think creating that space and that mindset. And we talked earlier about it's okay to fail, and not to encourage them to fail, but encourage them to at least try, and being somewhat forgiving. And earlier it's about breaking the rules and seeing what we can come up with.
One of the pieces from somebody I talked with this week was around it can be easy to create these opportunities to fail or to succeed by just doing small initiatives, small pilots to try it out, see if it's got some success, and then see if it's scalable, see if you can do more. So, I mean, there has to be a willingness to take the risk, but it doesn't have to be, you don't have to risk the whole organization to do it, right?
No, they were talking about, low-lying fruit, but they went one step further at a session, and they called it windfall. So it's the apple's already on the ground, or the fruit already on the ground. And,
Wow.
And it's a perfect analogy, because we don't have to reach that high to be innovative. And if we can, I think one other example, if you want to start working out, do it for 10 seconds a day or 30 seconds a day and increase it. If you want to start being innovative, start picking up one piece of low-lying fruit or windfall fruit and work with that and celebrate those successes every single day.
Yeah.
And I could just add one last thing for my area is the partnership piece. Innovation bringing into partnership, because then risk isn't so scary, perhaps. When you're sharing a bit of accountability with other innovative and like-minded folks, it's a burden that you can share together, and then there's a support factor there, so you don't have to go out and do it on your own. So the partnership piece is another element that I'll be bringing back.
And sometimes it brings different skills in the room for to do different things.
We're not the experts in all the areas.
And innovation is a team sport, right?
Yeah.
It takes a team to do it. We all have to be on the same team.
Yeah. So one of the things we heard too was about if you're going to do innovation, you're going to introduce innovation, you have to be a salesperson. So are you folks all comfortable in that role as you go back to sell this, to sell innovation, to?
I am, but I think that there's a real. It's important that it's not just one individual. I think there has to be a group of individuals, and hopefully people who are influential in the organization. And when I say influential, that's often not the senior people. It's other people in the organization who, for whatever reason, have the ability to reach out to others, whether it's their energy, whether it's the fact that they perform perhaps a corporate service, so they have connections in multiple parts of the organization. We have a continuous improvement unit, which in and of itself is not innovative. I think many municipalities do that now. But what we do, how we do it, I think, is somewhat innovative. So we do it as a succession planning tool as well. So while some municipalities will hire someone to be their, manager or project leader of continuous improvement, and then that person stays in that role until attrition kicks in, we actually rotate the people in our continuous improvement unit every 18 months. And so, yes, we probably lose out a little bit in terms of continuity, but it's not like they're leaving the country. They're still in the organization, so the transition can be done quite smoothly. But what's really good about it is I think we're now in our third cohort, we now have people spread out in the organization and, in fact, at our area municipalities, because we opened it up to them. So we have people spread out in our organization and in the lower tiers, all who participate in our continuous improvement unit. So that actually, in my opinion, means we have a whole bunch of salespeople and a bunch of dealerships too. So that's something that I think is important, because there's only so much that one person can do, and you can talk about it, and that I encourage that. But you have to inspire a shared vision. There has to be other people who are willing to sort of support you. And then at some point the CAO hopefully can take a step back and stand behind the group that takes it forward. So I think there has to be more than one salesperson, I guess. That's my point.
I think the selling part is also to council as well. They also have the ultimate say on the budget.
Yes.
And part of part of the innovation process are things like this conference, and so making the proposal to council to support the dollars to send your staff, and not your senior staff, but send a mix of your staff to conferences like this, to networking events like this, so that they can learn. And I'm really surprised on how much I'm actually taking away from this conference. It was amazing. And if I can have my staff take away just as much or more or even less, it's still a win-win. So I think pushing that with council and making the cases that this is why we have to do this.
Okay.
Yeah, one of the nuggets I got today was that the new way of learning is now through networking. Like instead of the academic type of learning, like we can just study things, we can study like business cases and see how did that work for a different municipality, but it's really the networking that helps bring this and helps with that. So embedding that culture of innovation, it needs to be done that way.
Yeah.
Okay. So does anybody else have any insights or thoughts while we're here that they'd like to share?
I think there's a lot of other positive things that come out of an innovative culture. I think the networking is one of the obvious ones because it takes people speaking together. Someone mentioned earlier today that it has resulted in silo busting. I think it might have been Burlington that was talking about that. And that's great. I mean, if you have an organization where you're not being as efficient as you can be because people aren't talking to each other, having an innovative culture will help with that. I think from a staff development standpoint too, it's really big because it, the generational interest in the workplace has changed, and I think millennials are much more interested in understanding why they're doing what they're doing, and they want to have the opportunities to talk about doing things different and better and to interact with others. And so I think you create that kind of environment that creates more opportunities for younger people, which makes you more attractive as an employer. So I think the list of benefits just go on and on and on. And at the end of the day, I've said the word efficiency and effectiveness a few times now, but that's really what we're always striving to do. It's for
it's
our
always the
residents.
ruler, right?
Yeah.
It's always the ruler that your success is measured with.
That's right. And it was recently somebody was asking me what the difference was between the two. And I had read somewhere that a real simple explanation between the difference between efficiency and effectiveness is basically doing things right or doing the right things. And that really resonated with me because I think innovation is about both. I think it's about doing things right and also doing the right things, because when you sit down and talk about what you're doing and how can we do it differently or how can we do it better, or maybe we're doing it the right way, but that's that test. You're determining, okay, are we being as efficient and as effective as we can? So I think that's what we're expected to do. We're all ratepayers ourselves, and I think people expect us to not necessarily always be on the cutting edge. We're not, the Teslas of the world, but we also shouldn't be afraid to be the first at something if it's going to make sense for it. Somebody had to come up with good ideas, and why can't it be any one of our municipalities?
Well, you guys are noble people doing noble work, so I'm glad we have the chance to talk about that and celebrate it here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much.
I want to give you the opportunity before we wrap to tell everybody why next year they need to be thinking about coming to Muskoka to get their innovation on.
Yeah, I don't think most people associate Muskoka with innovation. I think, if anything, the prevailing wisdom is that people are innovative in their cities, generally the GTA area, and then they come up north and they can sort of put away their creativity and just sit by the dock and enjoy themselves. But I actually think there's quite a lot of innovation in Muskoka in some cases because of necessity. It's a big region with not the same type of services that other people have because we just don't have the population in some cases to support some of the services. It's a great place. We think there's some great examples in Muskoka about things that not just municipally, but just in the community that are happening really well. I also think that you can be innovative. That the thing about I can't hit and think at the same time. So we're encouraging people to come to Muskoka. It's a great place. We know that because all we have to do is stand on the highway on Fridays, and it seems like everybody wants to be there.
Everybody's going there.
So we're looking forward to people coming up, to relaxing a little bit, not worry too much about the hitting and doing some thinking in a really beautiful environment. The fall colors are usually out around September, October. The temperature should be warmer than in what it is right now in Calgary this year. First-class, world-class facilities up in Huntsville. We actually chose Huntsville. There's a lot of places in Muskoka we could have gone to. But we chose Huntsville because the Deerhurst facility, we think, has a lot of the attributes that we need. But more importantly, it's nice and close to our largest municipality from a population standpoint, which is Huntsville. And Huntsville offers a lot, whether it's arts and culture, or food, or recreation. There's so many different things to do there. So we're hoping to show the country what a great place Muskoka is. I know a lot of people from Ontario, like you folks, already have been there or know a lot about it. But certainly we're hoping that many of the folks we've met out here in Western Canada will join us in Muskoka next year.
Okay. Do we have the dates for that event yet?
We do. It's the fourth week of September, and I believe it's the Monday and Tuesday. 21st to 23rd, something like that.
That's great. Well, I hope to see all of you there in Muskoka, and I'm sure we'll see you.
Yeah.
Thanks again for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.